Hello and welcome to another Bulblog video diary. It's an early, nice morning. It's mild, no sunshine, but it's nice at the moment and it's warm enough for a few of the flowers to start opening a bit more again. So I want to start here with this little bed, a little sand bed. And I've written and spoken about this a lot because this is about the only place in the garden that we've managed to get Cyclamen comb growing really well. When we'd been trying for 40 years to establish comb in the garden, and we've got some little plants, but they've never expanded or done well. And about 2008, I forget the exact date, I made this little sand bed in an area where I once had an old wooden stand for small bonsai. That's why it's this strange shape here. And I just filled it with sand, and somebody had sent me some seed of Cyclamen comb at the time. And I just scattered the seed into the sand when I built the bed. And since then it's gradually established, it's colonised, the moss has grown. For many years I tried to keep the moss off, but for the last quite a few years now I've just left the moss, and the Cyclamen just love it. As you can see, this sort of pale, darker pink, and very pale pinks. And we're even starting to get them popping down into the gravel and the odd ones seeding out into the path. So it just shows you, even in a small bed, you can have all sorts of interesting things. I was just noticing something else there coming through. Not sure, I suspect that's a snowdrop. But the snowdrops are out. There's quite a lot of snowdrops. There's more still coming. The early signs through the poking through the mulch. The crocus thurkienus, these beautiful yellow flowers. But it's just such a nice time of year. There's still a lot of winter, evidence of winter around. Come up here, one of our seats, we often sit here and look up the garden from this point. You can see the old Pyrrhus. It's going to get a haircut today. Once I've done this video, it's going to be one of the things that gets a bit of a trim back. Behind the seat here in this little bed, there's the iris. Just Iris reticulata forms, cultivars. It's a case of there's so many cultivars out there, just keep getting some until you find the ones that enjoy your garden, and then when you do, they'll increase, form clumps. We've never had seed from them, but they increase by clumps. The snowdrops, some have been out for a while. Of course, if you're into looking at your snowdrops, you know, you'll want to see the ones with the green outsides. You'll want to see the yellow ones and all the different shaped leaves, the different yellows, the different species, Warrenoi. But I kind of just like them for the mass display, which you can enjoy the mass, or you can get down amongst them and start to spot the variations. Down in the cobble bed, there's a lot more coming, so there's some of the little special snowdrops. There's more crocus thurkienus here, and what about this tiny little narcissus, former hybrid of Asturiensis there. And there I've just spotted as well one of the very first Narcissus cyclamenius to open in the garden. But with the temperature sitting about 10 degrees, at last the Eranthis have managed to open their flowers a wee bit. They've been sitting in with the bud tightly clasped shut for a couple of weeks now probably, but at last they're getting it warmer. We were battered on last Friday with a storm, Oscar it was called, with 80+ mph winds thrashing through the garden, and it knocked over and bent a lot of the snowdrops and plants, but no severe damage to the house, to the house or the overall trees, the bigger trees. They all survived. But it brought down a lot of dead wood. The garden's covered in it. Up to the raised beds, slab beds, starting to waken up this one. We're starting to get stuff. Down here we've got Eranthis, Guinea Gold, another of the little narcissus. This one's going to be Minima, or not quite sure who that is. Might just be one of my own seedlings, or possibly a hybrid. So there's lots of bulbs to come at this end of the bed. Narcissus cyclamenius just coming through. Things are wakening up. I can see in amongst the flower buds just starting to form on some of the Primula marginata, different forms. Some prunings there waiting to get shredded. After I've done this, my shredder comes out and I'm going to be cutting back some stuff and shredding. The crocus are starting, but still just in tight bud at the moment. We need them to open a bit more, which they will do. They've just shot up recently. And again, wherever we look, the snowdrops taking us all the way up the garden. Round here, my problem area below the bird feeder here, it's those pesky town pigeons just tramp about and trampled everything there. But there's so much to see poking through. You can see if I come down here, you can see the main plants and you can see the seedlings from different years. Here's a trillium bud there. There's a trillium seedling. That's not a first year, that's come back up. That's probably a second-year-old seedling. And then we've got leucojums. Galanthus voronoi, the start of the coriodalis, just starting to appear. More Eranthis, and a lovely flower there of hellebore. And on cue, as soon as I start making a video, the aeroplane decides it's time to come in to land at the airport. This is a group of couple of different forms of the Dryad Gold series, that wonderful group of snowdrops raised, well, one of the many snowdrops raised by Anne Wright of Dryad Nurseries. She does great work in breeding, and when you get fresh young stock recently bred, so it's not been propagated for 50 years or 100 years vegetatively, it's got more vigour, and they do very well around the garden as they increase. Oh, I'm falling over here. The very first hepaticas are also just making an appearance here. There'll be a lot more of them to appear, but lots of Leucojum and snowdrop. And again, if you want to go down and look, you'll see there's green marked, some with green markings. Lots of just different sizes, big ones and little ones. They're all over. I'm having to walk my feet when I'm off the paths. Most of the way around the garden we've got paving slabs, stepping stones to walk on, but where there's gaps between the slabs, plants come in. I can see the Fritillaria imperialis starting to push through. First daffodil, Narcissus hispanicus, I think that is, and of course the Leucojums. I love Leucojums. I'd be hard to choose, but I think the Leucojums, for me, in a way, they've got everything that the snowdrop people would love. Equal size petals and green tips or yellow tips. That's a Leucojum. More hellebores. If we just come round this bed, we'll see that this is one of the earlier Hepaticas. It's been out for a wee bit, but it's white. It's just got a hint of pink in it, and it comes very early. It's a seedling from the one, if I go around the other side from this little bed. This is always the first Hepatica to put out its flowers with us, this white one. And that's early habit seems to pass through its seed lineage. Up in the Erythronium beds, it's the Iris Catherine Hodgkin. It's a very willing plant. It flowers well, but to me it's slightly dirty in colour. It's not got a purity of colour. But for all having said that, I wouldn't be without it, because it is one of the irises that increases, and it just runs about in here from the little side shoots that pop off the bulb. I must say it's much nicer walking around with this the bird song and not the noisy aeroplanes going overhead. And then the wee blue bulbs, you get the Scylla pushkinioides and Pushkinia celioides, and they're all wonderful little things. They come very early. They form lovely clumps, and some of them seed around. There's so many crocus to come here. There's lots in bud. There's a lot more to come. Another group here with, this is more of the Dryad Gold series. I see here another Narcissus cyclamenus. So let's just walk around a bit, but as I say, you can see what I mean about the paths. We have to watch because the Eranthis escaping from the bed into the gap, so we really step from slab to slab. And the masses of seedlings pushing through the mulches. It always amazes me, even though it's a fairly heavy mulch of our own shredded composted material, how these little seedlings manage to push their way up through it. And the beds are not tidy, they're not clean soiled. It's very much a natural woodland floor type soil with leaves and dead wood and sticks. And it seems to suit the plants. Some more crocus. Again, I think a Thurkey anus So I won't go that way today. But you can see all the dead wood that's got blown down. I need to go after the storm. Storm also took our power out for 5 hours, which is very unusual for us to lose power here in the edge of the city. It happens a lot out in the country. Another few days of sunshine and warmth and this area will be, these crocus will open. They're almost unnoticeable at the moment, but once a bit of heat comes and the flowers develop that bit more and they open their little faces, you won't be able to walk past them. More Narcissus cyclamenus. First of the erythroniums. Here the erythronium caucasicum, the white, not warm enough for it to open quite yet, but some years, this is a very early form. With other forms, oh, I can see a bud up there, that come about a month later. But some years this one never gets to open its little flowers, it's never warm enough. Up in this bed in the shaded area, more of the same, but just sitting at about 2 weeks behind, because it's more shaded and cooler at this end of the garden. But snowdrops, crocus, I see little narcissus. Up the back in there, in behind, all against the wall, is the compost areas, the engine room of the garden, where all the goodness is recycled and comes back into the garden. But these are the snowdrops, very tall and big. They've grown up tall because it's a bit shaded here and the wind really blowed them. But again, you've a whole range. You've got the green outers and a very green middle. And then we've got plicatus types, big leaved ones, narrow leaved ones. Little one here with little narrow flowers, I think that's the one that's for the wasp group. And then the Eranthis, there's different Eranthis. So you have some quite dark Eranthis with the green stripe, the grunling types. And then you've got the pale, sulphury yellow Eranthis like these. And then you've got the more orangey, deeper orangey ones. And then down here, I'm just kneeling on them, we've got the ones that will come a wee bit later, all along the front. Are they just poking through are the guinea golds. And here's a cluster of seedlings, Eranthis seedlings. So it's really fun, as I say, at this time of year, but I could just walk around looking all the time, but so much to do that I really need to get going and tidy up a nice group of crocus there. That Crocus atticus, one of the Atticus forms, really good tour with us. Here's more. Cyclamenius the Narcissus cyclamenius are just starting to pop all across the garden. It's a great little thing. And if you leave it and its conditions are right, it will seed itself around. So I think we'll come to a stop as we wander up and see more snowdrops. The big areas. Snowdrops, Leucojum and crocus, Eranthis. It's a great way to have an early flowers in the garden. So thanks very much for joining me. If you're still with me after all this time, thank you. for being with me, and I'll come back again when things have moved on a bit more and there's other things to show you. So bye for now.